What is the best thing that has ever happened to you between 3 am to 5 am? Alone on a business trip in Hong Kong. My sleep was screwed up due to the time zone shift and I'd spent the evening attempting to compensate with alcohol. Returning to the hotel at 3 am, I'm still not sleepy and I notice next door to the hotel is one of those little HK bars up on the 3rd or 4th floor, so I decide to go up for a nightcap. It's dark and smoky with a few businessmen in groups and alone hunched over their drinks. I was the only foreigner in the bar and nobody even looked up when I came in. I ordered a drink and wandered over to the vacant karaoke machine. As an introvert, the mere presence of a karaoke machine is enough to keep me outside of a party. But secretly I've always wanted to try it. So I think, here I am on the far side of the earth 1,000 miles from anyone who knows me. Why not? The waiter was at my elbow in an instant. He showed me the English language songs. Unfortunately, a few weeks prior, I had been to a party where some girls had done a beautiful, spontaneous rendition of ABBA's Dancing Queen, so for some reason I thought I could sing that. Then the waiter said I had to pick a second song, so I chose Strangers in the Night. I thought it would be like when you sing along with the radio in your car but suddenly the song is going and there are no vocals. Then I start singing about an octave above my range. It was brutal. As I muscled through Strangers, my face was bathed in sweat. Finally it ended. I slumped into my chair vowing never to karaoke again. All this time, not one person in the bar even looked in my direction. Then slowly one young guy, drunk with his necktie loose and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, swung his chair around and gave me a slow clap. "Just enjoy," he said. "Just enjoy." I think about that phrase all the time when I take myself too seriously. I've even done karaoke again. Well done, sir. Never stop carrying the okie. I went to a donut shop in my town. They open at 4 and always run out of good donuts by the time I'm awake. So I finally got try one. It was pretty good. Reminds me, I've got to try and get up early one of these days to get a bucket of donuts. A place near me sells an entire bucket of yesterday's donuts for $5. Fiance and I love licking off the frosting and filling, then tossing the rest. Went to downtown, Victoria, BC, Canada, and yes, it is safe to roam in downtown at that time, and got a whole pizza for $6. Took the pizza to the inner harbor, 2 blocks away, sat there, enjoyed the view and ate my pizza. My then boyfriend and I came back from the New Year's party we were at. We lit a bunch of candles, tuned out the lights and sat on the couch talking for 2 hours about everything. On a whim, he turns to me and asks, "Will you be my wife?" Then boyfriend, the cynic in me, says, "You broke up, but please tell me you married the crap out of him." Getting dragged to a house party I didn't want to be at. Ended up meeting an old co-worker, good friend who I crushed on for a few years while we worked retail together but never made a move. Turned out she felt the same. Been together for 3 years and change now. Easily the best night of my life so far. Squinty eyes. Not sure if this is adorable or a tree-fitty joke. I don't know what to believe anymore. I write all my English assignments at that time. I'm philosophical when I'm tired, and my prof seems to love my unique style of thinking. I did this too, but my profs just gave me C's and said started strong, but more and more flimsy the further you go. He's obviously just not on tired me's intellectual level. My older brother and I often pulled all-nighters and watched movies all night long and just generally made memories that we are sure to take for granted. One of these occasions was a chilly December night and my brother and I were laying listening to music and simply enjoying the moment. This is Texas, so it rarely gets too cold, but my brother decides to go get a blanket. When he returns he utters the words, "Look outside." I stick my head out the front door and am awed by what I see. Snow. Untouched. Pristine. White. A fresh blanket of snow was covering everything in sight. Keep in mind, this is a city in Texas where it snows maybe once or twice a year or sometimes not at all. And on the rare occasions it does snow there is maybe 1 or 2 inches of snow. But on this night, there was several inches of snow. So much so that my foot sank into the ground as I took my first step outside into this strange frozen utopia. My brother and I simply glance at one another and without saying a word we dart outside. It felt like we had been bestowed the highest privilege to be the ones to make the first marks upon these mounds of snow. I'll never forget the euphoria and just pure happiness diving into the snow and doing somersaults so late at night. It was as if the snow was meant for us and only us. I live in Texas too. This reminds me of one night. I was spending a weekend night at my friend's house. We saw the snow at the dead of night and played in it and rejoiced. But by morning it was gone and no one believed us that it had snowed. Texas. I stumbled upon a secret jazz theater performance done by amazing musicians and a troupe of belly dancers while running through the woods with my best friends. For serious though. I'm gonna need to hear the story to this. Dunno about best, but I'll share my most memorable experience. I was 10 years old and it was 2 AM on a Saturday morning. For some reason my mom was wide awake and bored, so she woke me up and asked if I wanted to go eat at the local 24-hour truck stop diner. I agree, and we enjoy an early breakfast in a mostly empty restaurant. It's probably 3:30 AM when we get home, and as we're pulling into the driveway we see movement. Mom turns off the car and the headlights, and on our back steps we see two large, fat raccoons just loitering there. We sit and watch them for about a minute until they shuffle off. It's things like this that paint a beautiful picture. 21st birthday in Vegas. Realized my wallet was missing so went and backtracked not really expecting to find it. Some bum had it and stopped me. He said something along the lines of dang I can't believe I am doing this but happy birthday. I saw you drop it but when I saw it was your ident birthday I decided to wait a while for you to come back. You're lucky I was just about to leave and he busted up laughing walking away. It had credit cards and like $250 cash. And he didn't even touch it. Ended up giving the guy the $50 just out of sheer drunken happiness that I had it back. Hahaha. My dad was away at school but was coming home that afternoon. I couldn't sleep. If I get too excited, I don't sleep. So I went out into the living room around 3 AM to watch TV. My mom had the same idea. I thought I was going to get in trouble for getting out of bed. I'd done it before, but she was just like, wanna go to Walmart with me? Frick yeah I wanna go to Walmart at 3 in the morning. We went and bought art supplies so my brothers and I could make signs to welcome our dad home. And we had Thanksgiving at our house last year and somehow my aunt and uncle were still there, hanging. Around 2 AM. Everyone got hungry, so my aunt and I made a Mickey D's run and got a fuck ton of fries and burgers. She's still my favorite aunt. Your family is like a freaking college apartment. I was on a cruise ship with some friends I had made when we decided to order room service at 3 AM. 30 minutes later, 6 cheeseburgers, a bucket of chicken tenders, 3 large fries and a glass of chocolate milk are delivered to our door. Greatest meal ever. I had a pretty strict upbringing growing up. Had to be home before the sun goes down, in bed by 10 PM. Basically never allowed to sleep over at friends' houses. You know the deal. My best friend lived down the street from me, and his family was just as strict as mine. One night when I was 13, I heard about a spectacular meteor shower that was going to happen at night, with the best visibility around 4 AM. It was a school night, so I lost hope of seeing it before I could even formulate a plan of convincing my parents to let me stay up and go watch it outside. I figured I could watch it outside my window somehow, even though my view was almost completely blocked by our roofing structure. I thought I might as well ask my parents even though I knew what the answer would be. Instead of hearing that no word I had grown up with, remarkably my parents said I could not only get up and watch it, but go out to our backyard for better viewing, as long as I went to bed earlier. I was ecstatic and besides myself. I called my friend and told him the news and his first thought was to immediately run to his parents and ask them. They said no, but after some convincing, I got my parents to call his and set up a little get together. I went to bed at 9 that night but barely slept a minute because I was so excited. A little bit past 3 AM, my friend came over with his dad, and me and my dad took them out to our backyard to watch the show. It was as spectacular as I had imagined it would be. But what made this night so amazing was just being awake and outside at a time that was so foreign to me. It was the first time I had been outside so late, and it felt like a completely new world that I had only heard about or watched on TV, but never gotten a chance to actually witness. Nighttime was strictly adult world to me, and I felt like I had snuck into a forbidden paradise. I've since had many awesome nights out, and being a full-grown adult I can do whatever the frick I want at 3 AM to my own choosing, but that first night will always be special. I was expecting sneaking out or hiding under the blankets fighting to stay awake, classic kids stuff. But no, this is wonderful and amazing. Not only did you got to see it with your dad and your best friend, and they allowed it and we're happy to share it with you. They might have been strict, but damn it, they loved you. We had been at a party until 3:30ish. We arrived at the station a little past 4 AM to see that the next train to our hometown was past 5 AM. It was summer, and it was raining. The building where you could wait for the trains and buses was closed as it is during the nights. I was tired, in that blissful way that can only be caused by a good alcohol buzz. No one else was at the station, except for a man sleeping on a bench, and we didn't pay much notice to him. She asked me if we could listen to music, and I found my iPod. We each took an earbud and had to stand really close, so they wouldn't fall out. And before I knew what was happening, we started dancing. Just slowly dancing around on the station in the rain, really close to each other. And that's when we had our first kiss. Nothing fancy. Dreamed of my mom, who is dead, and it was so unspeakably wonderful to see her again and tell her that I love her. Those are great dreams to have, but dang, when you wake up to the horrible crushing realization that she's gone. Sorry to be that guy. R.I.P. Mom. On acid, I looked at the sky, and there was a tear. I cried. This just happened tonight. Well, last night. It's 3:30 am right now where I am. I have really bad social anxiety that I use to manage with excessive alcohol use. Well, I have been 9 months sober now and really struggling to enjoy spending time with friends for the whole time I have been sober. Anyway, tonight I spent all night at a gathering of close mates and just spent the whole time laughing and joking and talking. Pretty normal stuff for most people, but an amazing feeling for me. So cut to me getting home, sticking on Spotify and browsing Reddit, feeling genuinely happy for a change. So I'm sitting at my desk, doing nothing on the computer as usual, and I look outside and see a car drive down the street, backwards, all the way down about a mile of road. I usually go to bed early. Maybe it was time that went backwards. My first child was born at 3:12 AM and almost died from respiratory failure at 4:30 AM, but lived. It was my 21st birthday. He's now 24, engaged, and I get to work with him every day. Jim Lovell, Bill Anders, and Frank Borman completed their lunar orbit insertion burn to become the first humans to orbit the moon. It may have been closer to 2 AM, but still rather significant. Woke up on the shitter with crap in the toilet. 5 minutes before this I was pee drunk and blacked out after opening the door. I love my subconscious. I wish I had your subconscious. Mine usually finds it amusing to get naked and sleep anywhere except my bed. It was late at the Ghent festival. A friend and me were wandering the streets after a long night of having fun and walked by a restaurant. A guy just walked up from one of the tables laughing and started playing a tune on a piano. Since we had nothing better to do, we just sat down to listen. Best decision ever. A second guest from the table took 2 spoons and joined the first with his tune, and it sounded pretty good. Not even a minute later, a guy, passing like we were, sat down next to us and took out a saxophone and just joined in. A few minutes after that, some dude with a guitar completed this at random orchestra jam session. They played till dawn. We all chipped in for drinks and it was a great time. Once, when I used to live in Austin, Texas, I was very bored at 3 AM and decided to post on a local social group on Facebook to see if anyone wanted to hang out. Soon after, a stranger posted saying they'd like to meet me at a park nearby. This park was heavily populated during the day and there are generally a constant supply of joggers out at night, so I decided it's a good place. I packed a small bag of supplies and walked for about 30 minutes. When I got there, I noticed a lady who was old enough to be my mom, but not old by any standard, sitting on top of a hill, which is where she said she'd be. We talked awkwardly for about an hour, and eventually warmed up to each other. After a long while of conversation, she offered me a ride home and I accepted. When we arrived, my grandma, who I was living with at the time, had just woken up. She saw me walk in the front door and looked confused, but even more so when the lady walked in behind me. My grandma and the lady met each other for a while and they became acquainted. Ever since then, she's been a great friend to me, and I'm really glad to have met her. Well, this summer I went to this camp called Boys State. The camp was about learning how to run a mock government for a week. It sounds like it would be fun, but from the late night conventions to the speeches and budgeting it got pretty intense fast. The guys at the camp were so reserved at first, but towards the end we became really great friends. On the last night we snuck in Taco Bell at 3 AM and sat and ate while talking about each other's lives and futures. Although I haven't seen any of those guys since, and the Taco Bell caused my bowels to unleash the next morning, I will always remember that night. Go to college. I've had so many memorable drunk 4 AM deep talks with 5-6 of my closest friends. Out of all the stuff I've experienced in college so far, those have stuck with me pretty heavily. Got drunk, and my buddy asked if I wanted to screw around with his guitar at a small house party. Dana was there. I proceeded to play a number of songs, and everyone there sang along with me. It was pretty awesome. Oh, Dana, she makes those parties. I have a non-verbal autistic 7-year-old son. He still sleeps in a bed in the same room with my wife and I. He tends to sleep fitfully and often gets up at 3 or 3:30, including 5 times this week, usually staying awake until about 5. He's almost never unhappy. He just wants to play, laugh, snuggle in our master bed, look out the window at an open field, and jump up and down on the bed. My wife usually just sleeps through or goes to another room, but I can't. Even as I get frustrated that he won't sleep, I can never be mad. Even though I am very tired, there's this amazing surreal quality to these late night play sessions. Eventually we both go back to sleep, and the next morning I often don't remember much, but I have a smile on my face. People often talk about what they've lost having a severely disabled child, but there's this amazing quality of shining, blistering presentness that my son shines on me and our family every day. It is truly a gift, even though I'm kinda tired all the time. My father died when I was 3. I was fricked up as I got older and I had a hard time coping. My favorite song was Soul to Squeeze by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Every time I heard it, I would just close my eyes and enjoy it. One day, while listening to the song, my mother told me that it was one of my dad's favorite songs. I thought that my dad was trying to communicate with me and that song became special. Almost every time I was sad, that song would come on the radio. It even came on the radio just before I went to the bathroom to commit suicide. And as you can see, I didn't do it. One year, it was especially bad on his death anniversary and I spent all day crying. I was 15 at the time and I was struggling to not be heard by anyone in the house. I was in a new state. I had only my grandmother with me. The rest of my family was back in my old state. I had no one to talk to, and I was a wreck. An absolute wreck. I couldn't sleep. It was now 2:58 AM. I knew I had to sleep because I had to wake up for something in the morning. I closed my eyes and said, "Dad, help me, please. I need to know you're with me. I don't know what to do. Just let me know you're here. I love you, Dad. Hope you're okay." Once I finished saying okay, Soul to Squeeze came on the radio. It was 3 in the morning and I froze. I cried so hard, but it was happy tears. I will never forget that night and I firmly believe it was my father saying it was okay. What made it weirder was that my uncle was sleeping around 2:30 AM his time. He gets home late, at 3 AM. His wife woke him up and she was crying. He was asking what was wrong and all she could say was, "I heard a man in my dream. He keeps saying that he's sorry. He's so sorry. He misses her." She was so confused, but my uncle knew who that man was. He called me the next day and we were both shocked at what happened to the two of us. So yeah, best thing that ever happened to me. TLDR. Father Spirit visited me in the form of a Red Hot Chili Peppers song at 3 AM. Waking up at 4 AM to drive up into the mountains to see the sunrise with my friend. We listened to Alt J and it matched every part of the drive perfectly. It was magical. Once we got to the top we pulled over and started climbing this hill that was covered with the prettiest purple flowers all covered with dewdrops. The rising sun cast the entire hillside a dark orange color. We hardly talked to each other so it was almost like we were alone, but I am glad someone was there to experience it with me. It was incredible. I'm nocturnal. I lived in a decent neighborhood, but the gas station near me was always hopping at 3 am. I got off work at midnight, so I didn't really care. I was recently single after a very long-term relationship, and I forgot to order a sandwich and 6-pack of Coke. The last delivery place closed at 3 am, so I had a 3-block walk to the zoo of a gas station. On the way I saw 2 dudes trying to steal a bike. I walked pretty quietly, so I was maybe 10 feet away when they noticed me. They were just kids, so I wasn't really scared. They ran away. I get to the gas station, and some strippers from downtown are there getting gas. A homeless man propositions them, and I hear "I will freaking cuss you, you pickle-dicked mother." So I got a new phrase added to my vocabulary. I get inside and grab a bag of Muddy Buddies and a hot dog. The guy at the register says "Looks like rain. Do you want a bag for your hot dog?" I didn't notice anything rain-like on the walk-in. Christ, it's 3 am. How did he know? On the walk home it started to rain, so I used the bag to keep my hot dog dry. I got home and continued eating garbage while smoking weed and playing TF2. Pretty average night, but it stuck in my head for some reason. Found my dad for the first time. Went to bed around 1 am and couldn't get to sleep for hours. Felt like I should get up and scour the internet for a bit around 4 am. Found my dad's email address within half an hour, after searching for years. Now I know him and we're building a relationship. One time in high school, my parents left for vacation and I had the house to myself for a week. It was during the middle of the week, and I had some bros over to just hang out. We smoked and talked for a while in that way you only do late at night. I was experiencing some lady trouble at the time and was pretty beat up about it, and they knew it. I went to sleep earlier than everyone else, just kinda out of depression. A little bit later, they all came into my room, about 6 of them, all shirtless, singing Oasis's Wonderwall to me. I honestly wish I was lying. It was really unsettling at first, but something about it really cheered me up. Just that they knew I was beat up about it and knew I needed that WTF factor to get me out of the funk I was in. TLDR, 6 shirtless men sang Wonderwall to me to cheer me up. My son was born at 2:46 am. Dang it, so we'll have to be watching my husband gaze lovely at his new tiny baby while baby shat all over daddy's arm. What an amazing time. Then I had toast. The best freaking toast that's ever passed my lips. Oh man. After I had my son, at 5:20 pm, by the time everything was all cleaned up and I was allowed to eat, the kitchen had just stopped serving food. I had been in the hospital since midnight the night before, and I was starving. They gave me a turkey sandwich on wheat bread, just turkey and bread. That's it. I don't even like turkey, but that was the best freaking food I have ever eaten. I had a dream that I was in Candyland sitting on a cotton candy throne eating an ice cream sundae and watching the peasants, aka various people I hate, mine for Twix. Best dream of my life. Sleeping next to the girl I was heavily infatuated. Even though I couldn't really sleep too well, I was in awe at my luck because I was somehow allowed to sleep next to a beautiful girl that wanted me back. Even though things are over, I will never understand what I did in my past that allowed me to wake up next to her, kiss her good morning and say good morning beautiful girl. Was bogged down with a ridiculous amount of math homework. In the class, we turn in all the homework of the month at the end of the month together in a packet, and I was making up the last 2 weeks. Because idiot, and I was about 60% of the way through when it was about 4 am. Then I remembered SAT scores were out that night. Checked, 2,350, with a totally blank expression. I threw all my undone homework directly into the trash and took the most glorious hour and a half sleep. I was having chronic neck spine pain for quite some time. One night my GF and I had a threesome with a friend of hers. I fell asleep around that time with my head accidentally hanging over the side of the bed. Drinking was involved, of course. I woke up and no more neck pain. It was like I had a C-spine transplant. I saved my sister's life. Short story, I was up gaming in the wee hours of the morning when I hear my sister's phone go off. She says something to the "okay, I will be right down." Hearing this, I walked up to her and gave her the whole "I heard that, where do you think you are going at 3 am? She said her friend was here and wanted to go for a drive. I looked out and saw some empty beers being thrown out of a car and told her no chance they are drinking there, it's not a good idea. She argued but eventually called them saying she changed her mind. About 10 minutes later she gets a call from the girl's mum saying they had been in a car accident going 63 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone. Anyone in the back seat where my sister was sitting would have been killed. My neighbor let her drug addict nephew move in with her. He has stolen a bike, a weed whacker and several gas cans from my shed. I had no proof that it was him until the other day. I was mowing the lawn and he is trying to start his truck. It won't start. I figure he is out of gas. I grabbed my gas can, had about 1/2 gallon in it, and topped it off with water. I left it in the front yard right next to the lawnmower. I proceed to stake out in my guest bedroom. 3 am, here he comes, snaking across my grass. Took the bait. He dumps it in his truck and proceeds to flood his engine with water. I open up my front door and lock eyes with him. It happened a few nights ago. Me and the boys loaded up the car and began to head over to the 24/7 IHOP for some 4 am pancakes and whatnot. We get lost about 3/4 of the way there and pull into a White Castle to pull up directions. As we're sitting there, a car pulls up to the pickup window to receive its order, which turned out to be a crave case. As soon as the employee began to hand the box over to the driver, a small Asian kid runs between the car and the window and snatches up the burgers. Bread and patties go flying everywhere as this kid falls to the ground for running so hard. The driver pulls up his car and gets out to begin his chase across the street towards this burger menace. All the while I follow the kid in my car, not sure why the master of the burgers didn't do that. And as I make the corner, I see the Asian kid trying to get into his friend's car and some brolic dude pulling him out of it. He gets loose from the dude's hands and runs across the street to the Bank of America, where he gets his butt stomped out for about a minute. Needless to say, the pancakes freaking ruled. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.